So I actually had a whole different idea for this week's YouTube video, recorded content and everything, and just like scrapped the whole thing. Because it just, I don't know, it didn't feel right with kind of how I'm feeling in my life right now, which is not great. But I posted like a poll on my stories, and I had planned on doing this video, but it seems like there's been a demand for it, because if you follow my content, you know that I love all things gothic and witchy and dark and melancholic. And because of this, I haven't really dedicated a video to one of my favorite genres of literature, which is Gothic literature. And that is what I want to talk about and highlight in like the breadth of today's video. So I'm going to talk about books, some of my favorite Gothic lit books. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite Gothic literature books and a few other things kind of related to this general topic. And we'll just see what else kind of comes to my mind as I record. I am the kind of person who will read Gothic lit 365 days of the year. Like, my nails are always black. I always wear black or white when I want to feel like a Victorian ghost. But I don't save it for Halloween. It just, this genre like lives within me. And when I'm feeling very uneasy in my life, I've had a particularly difficult couple of weeks. And I've been in like a very not great space, a very dark space, to be honest with you. And you would think that the last thing that I need is more darkness, but I do find a weird, strange comfort within the genre of Gothic lit. Sometimes I feel like the Gothic literature genre is the only thing holding me together, and even then, just barely. So I feel exhausted in a way that feels cellular, and everything in my life right now feels relentless, and I wake up very overwhelmed. I go to bed still carrying everything that I didn't release or finish, and I kind of feel like I'm walking around feeling very thin, and not literally thin, but just stretched thin. And I'm just performing normalcy just well enough not to like alarm anyone. But inside, everything is very loud, and something in my body feels like a haunted house. So I think that's why I feel connected to this video today. And that's why I keep returning to this genre, not to escape, but more so for like a certain type of recognition. I don't think, like, Gothic lit doesn't try to make you feel better. It doesn't really offer any tidy endings or moral clarity. It just kind of lets you be in it, like the dread, the ruin, the longing. It makes space for all kinds of emotions that don't really resolve. And I think for like women, especially for girls, there's this strange, powerful freedom in the way that Gothic lit says that it's okay to be unwell and unhinged, to be angry and a little dramatic, and to be too much, and to scream in the night and not be silenced. I think Gothic heroines, they fall apart, but their rage and the way that they mourn and the way that they haunt is beautiful. And they don't always survive, but they're never ignored. And when you feel stretched so thin that you barely recognize yourself, there's something deeply comforting in reading a story that doesn't ask you to hold it all together. So yeah, Gothic fiction at its best doesn't soothe, it just kind of witnesses. So yeah, and right now I don't need a solution. I just need to feel seen in the mess of it all. I'm going to try and rapid fire these because there's a lot. So, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, a foundational Gothic novel and one of my all-time favorites. Victor Frankenstein builds life from death only to recoil from his creation, triggering a spiral of horror, grief, and revenge. It's about monstrosity, ambition, and the terrifying consequences of playing God. Coraline by the now problematic Neil Gaiman, one of my favorite books of all time, but it's essentially about a strange girl who steps into a world that mirrors her own, but better, until it turns monstrous. It's eerie and grotesque and threaded with existential dread in the shape of a button eye. I love this book. I love this film. I will never stop loving this book. Also, we have Carmilla. by Joseph Sheridan LaFanu. This is a queer vampire novella that predates Dracula, and it's arguably better in my opinion. Carmilla appears beautiful and mysterious, and her bond with the narrator becomes increasingly intimate and unsettling. So desire and danger are very prevalent in this novel. Ghosts by Edith Wharton. This is another great story. This is a collection of ghost stories that are elegant and devastating. Wharton, her writing doesn't just scare you. She's very like unsettling and often uses haunted houses and spectral figures to expose social rot and human grief. Now we're gonna move on to, this is actually one of my favorite books of all time. I think I've said that 3 times already. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. An unnamed narrator marries a wealthy widower and moves into Manderley, only to be haunted by the legacy of his dead wife. This is not a ghost story, but it might as well be. The atmosphere is thick with obsession and jealousy and dread. This book is so atmospheric and the prose are beautiful. This book is an experience of a read, and a lot of people like wait until October to read it. Don't wait. Like, there's a vibe for every season in this book, and you can read it anytime, and I highly recommend it. The Turn of the Screw by Henry James is basically about a governess who is convinced, that the children in her care are being haunted. And so it really asks the reader, like, is she right? Is she unraveling? Is she crazy? This is a psychological ghost story, and it's very ambiguous, and it feels very repressed in the prose and the way that this is written. Nothing in this book is really confirmed, and I think that's what makes it so terrifying. So Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte is probably like the book that was like my gateway drug into Gothic literature, but also just my love of literature in general. This one and Frankenstein were both very pivotal, important books in my life. If you don't know already, this is a Gothic story within a feminist spine, if you will. Jane is an orphan who becomes a governess at Thornfield Hall, where she falls in love with a brooding man who is keeping a violent secret in the attic. And it's still like one of the most emotionally intense books that I have ever read. Now, Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is the blueprint for the modern vampire. And this is told through letters and journal entries. The novel follows a group of people who are trying to stop Count Dracula from spreading his curse. It's gothic and sensual and filled with sexual panic. We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson is about 2 sisters who live in isolation after a mysterious family poisoning. The town hates them for it, and it's narrated by Mary Cat. It's eerie, it's childlike, but it's also dangerously unhinged. She really turns the Gothic lens inward. I have a lot of Shirley Jackson here, so the next one is, oops, wrong one. The Haunting of Hill House. This is about a small group that is invited to investigate a haunted house. One of them begins to fall apart, and it asks if the house is haunted, or it really like makes the reader question what actually happened in the story. This is terrifying in a psychological way. Next by Shirley Jackson is Hangs a Man. Also, look at this cover. I'm obsessed. I love this cover. This is about an isolated college girl who begins to lose her grip on reality. Or maybe she's like seeing things more clearly than anyone else. It's loosely based on a real life disappearance, and this is really like a Gothic coming of age story at its most surreal and quietly brutal. It's about madness, girlhood, and the things that we cannot name. And another Shirley Jackson book. This is one of my favorite book covers of all time. And these are short stories, dark tales, about ordinary people with a twist of unease. They're not traditional ghost stories, but they're like the way that people act strange and cruel and indifferent, and that's what makes it Gothic. So House of Leaves is an interesting story. It's about a man who discovers a documentary about a house that's bigger on the inside than the outside, and the book itself begins to unravel as he investigates. So it's an experimental novel about madness, space, obsession. Reading it feels like you're kind of falling into a labyrinth. It's interesting. Not my favorite, but it's interesting. Also, The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter is feminist retellings of classic fairy tales. So Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, etc., etc. And it's like, it feels like it is written in blood and laced with power and obsession. And her prose are so lush and gothic and full of violent beauty. There's sex, death, liberation. They all live here. Next, we have Babel by R.F. Kuang, and this is like a dark academia epic that feels deeply gothic at its core. It's about obsession, grief, empire, and translation, and Oxford is a haunted house, and language is both salvation and a curse. It's about being consumed by the very institution that has shaped you. I highly recommend this book. R.F. Kuang is such a brilliant writer, and because of that, I'm going to start reading The Poppy War, but such a stunning writer. This is kind of niche, but the collected works of Saint Teresa of Avila. This is the most gothic mystic stories that I've ever written, especially of its time. Saint Teresa writes about her visions, ecstasies, torments, and spiritual longings in a way that feels almost carnal. Like God breaks her open over and over and over again, and there's blood, and it's, I don't know, it's delicious. Fire, levitation, pure divine hysteria. Speaking of, I loved this book so much. If you have repressed religious trauma, you must read this book, especially if you have repressed religious Catholic trauma. This is The Nun by Dennis Diderot. It's claustrophobic, erotic, God-haunted. A young woman is forced into a convent where she faces spiritual abuse, institutional corruption, and queer tension under the guise of holiness. This is a slow descent into madness and resistance, and it's perfect. Highly recommend this. The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins is about a woman who is trapped in a room by her physician husband and becomes obsessed with the wallpaper on the wall. Her mind begins to fracture, and what she sees crawling behind the patterns might be real. It's perfect. It's gothic horror wrapped in domestic critique. Going back to religious trauma, The Monk by Matthew Lewis. This is blasphemous and unhinged in the best way possible. It's about a monk who falls from grace into murder, lust, satanic deals. It's melodramatic and lurid and just absolutely iconic. I think this is the last one. Look at this cover of The Crucible. I'm sorry, like, this is stunning, and I have 2 nightgowns that look like this. This is set during the Salem witch trials, and the play captures the gothic horror of mass hysteria and moral panic. It's about power, persecution, and what happens when the fear of the devil becomes more dangerous than the devil himself. I also acquired these recently at a used bookstore, and I've heard very good things about this on witchy Reddit threads. This makes me so happy. Like, I can't even explain to you. I'm kind of like, as I'm recording this, because I sit on the floor, this is like my evening floor time. I'm just surrounded by all of my favorite gothic lit books, and it just makes me so happy. Yeah. Anyways, these are really cool. These are dark. Like, there's some really like freaky stuff in here. I love the pictures. I love like the calendars, the imagery. Like, yeah, I can't wait till October. Anyways, that's kind of like my gothic my Gothic lit spiel. There's a lot more that I could recommend, but I've already talked long enough. If I were to recommend just a few in this list, Rebecca, if you need an escape, read this book. Love this. If you can relate to this, even better. And if you want to read something kind of unique, this is great. So yeah, I think that's the gist of it. So I have a bit of a reading update for you guys, but before I do that, I must preface, this is now the third take that I've had to do for this video, and I recorded like a 15-minute long video yesterday, and none of the audio recorded. It was just like me speaking into the void, and I had to put it down for the day. I couldn't do it anymore. So it's a new day, and we're here. So that's all that matters. I have, like I said, a reading update for Middlemarch, but I also went to the bookstore recently, like a really cute used bookstore, and I've acquired some really cool books. So I'm going to show you what I got. This is a Harvard Classics book that I found, and it has Plato, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. So it's a philosophy book, but number one, I love the cover of this, and despite being on a book ban, here we are. I think this book was like $5, and the cover's beautiful. I just feel like, I don't know, she's pretty. I feel like there's more collections, like there's more books like this, and they feature different philosophers, and I kind of want like 3 or 4 of them, because I feel like that would make it look complete. So this is one I got that I'm really excited about. I also got John Keats' poems and letters. If you're into poetry, or if you're ever looking for a poetry recommendation, I always recommend Keats, because he very much creates poetry through the lens of like living seasonally and seasonality. I feel like a lot of that is just kind of weaved into his writing, and it's beautiful. I also found this book by Sartre. I've never even heard of this book before, The Words. So it kind of captured my interest, and it was also $2. So I got it, and I love the cover of it. I love like fine line illustration. I really don't know anything about art, but I like this. So yeah. I have a copy of this, but I enjoy these specific translations of philosophy books from Hackett, but this is Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy. I found this book that I thought was really cool. I did ballet for 18 years, so anytime I see like a classical ballet book, I get really excited, and half of this book is like in French, but it's essentially like all of the technical terms that you use like in ballet. So I like pulled open a page to pas de bourrée, but these books always like bring me back to my ballet years, and I collect them. I have a few books on Balanchine, and yeah, anytime I find one, I always get that. I also found Steppenwolf, which is a book that's been on my TBR for a while. I have not read this, but I've heard very good things about it. I've heard that this is very interesting, very philosophical, very supernatural, almost like magical realism, similar to something like Master and the Margarita, which I loved. And then the last 2 books I got are a bit kitschy and witchy. They are these, witches' manuals, almanacs, sorry. I thought these were very interesting, and I've read a lot of really cool things about these books, specifically the Witch's Almanac, and there's other like versions, but they only had these two on water and plants. But I am a very witchy person, and I love like all of the illustrations and like, I don't know, all of the things in here are so, yeah, witchy, and I love it. I'm here for it. I know it's April and I know we're in spring, but I will always gravitate toward things like this. So I'm kind of excited to read this, and it kind of made me want to get the other 2 or 3. There's so many things that I've been wanting to do from a creative standpoint. Like, I really want to start writing fiction again, short fiction, short stories, and quantitatively I could carve out the time, but from a qualitative standpoint, I'm so emotionally capped right now. Like, I feel cooked as fuck. Like, and I feel like there's so many things that I want to create, and I am just having the worst mental and creative block. And it's very frustrating because, like I said, being able to create is the only thing that's making me feel soothed. If I feel anxious or anything like that, and I start to write or I start to create or do anything like that, I immediately feel soothed. So I wish I could do more of that. And I'm very envious of the people who can do that for a living and, you know, have that be their thing, which I'm sure all of us kind of secretly desire in some capacity. I had to take my jacket off. I was getting hot. I apologize. Yeah, I think all of us kind of have this desire to, maybe it's not create, maybe it's not doing anything in that lens, but I think that we all have certain things in our life that we wish that we could do and we aspire to do, and it's difficult when you kind of like envision something for yourself, but you realize that you're just kind of heading in the wrong direction. I feel really trapped in certain areas of my life, and I know I'm being really vague right now, and I'm like dancing around in circles with this conversation, but if you have not been able to feel it from my energy in this video today, I am having a hard time, but I'm trying and I'm here. Anyways, let me give you a reading update with Middlemarch, which I had to take a little bit of a break from. So I paused Middlemarch a while back, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because it almost felt a little too rich, like trying to eat a whole cake in one sitting. But I'm about halfway through now, and it kind of feels like I'm returning to a deeply familiar, morally complicated world where everyone is just kind of quietly longing for more. Dorothea still breaks my heart with how much she wants to be good and to be useful and to do something meaningful, which I very, very resonate with, like deeply. And Lydgate already is unraveling in a very modern way, just ambitious, idealistic, and completely undone by marriage and money. I think George Eliot has this way of writing that makes you feel like you're not just reading about people, but you are them or you've known them. And every page feels like it's offering something or some sort of like quiet truth that you weren't quite ready to hear. And I'm just excited and slightly nervous to sink back in and fully immerse myself at this time, just slower and more open and ready to be changed by it. The other book that I'm quite enamored by right now is The Days of Abandonment, and this is what I need right now. This type of literature is what I need more than anything. And so this has been a balm to the soul. I'm almost done with this. I'm pretty much done. But it's been a nice book to be able to take with me. It's very light. Like, it's very difficult to bring this beast with me everywhere, but I've very much been enjoying this. This is not your basic pretty rose. This is not a garden party. This is not delicate. This is a Gothic rose, a rose in mourning, a rosette mass. She is dressed in black lace and sunlight. This is Little Flower. And if you watch my other video, you will truly believe in the power of manifestation, because Ministry of Scent sent me this bottle and I'm so excited. Little Flower by Regine de Fleur smells like you pressed your face into a bouquet of roses at a funeral and couldn't tell if the tears were yours or from someone else. It opens with this stunning burst of rose. It's fresh, pink, bright, but there is an incense that is curling underneath, like smoke drifting through stained glass windows. There is something so ceremonial about it, something sacred. And you get the prettiness. It's sparkling and petal soft, but never naive. There is a patchouli note that grounds it. It's not earthy, but it's velvety, and there's a resinous warmth to it too, like polished wooden pews and candle wax. It's grief and sadness with an excellent posture. This is a scent for the pretty girl who has really been through it. She journals in the margins of textbooks and philosophy books. She looks like a saint, but she's not. It's soft and it's haunted. It's gorgeous, but in a holy way, like if an angel lit a cigarette. This is scent of divine femininity, but make it melancholy. It doesn't scream, but it lingers, and it blesses and bruises, and then it disappears like a prayer. I need to show you how beautiful she is. Chloe Sevigny is the other half of the creator of this perfume, who, if you don't know, she is a fairy. She is an angel. She is the most beautiful human to ever walk the ends of the earth. She is the it girl, especially the it girl of New York City. So her partnering with Regime de Fleur, who's one of my favorite perfume houses. I mean, look at this bottle, like the pearl top. It's so beautiful. Like, this makes me feel like an ethereal fairy princess. So if you're looking for like the most perfect, beautiful, gothic, fairy, like rose fragrance, this is it, I promise you. Ministry of Scent also sent me a bunch of other samples. Like, they sent me crushed fruits and green vanille from Regime de Fleur, which I'm super excited to smell. They sent me 2 Room 1015 scents, Sonic Flower and Jasmine Freak. Also very excited to smell these. Mississippi Medicine is like one of my favorite Dias and Durga scents. It smells like a campfire in the woods, in the redwoods, or somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Stunning. Like a very gothic, woodsy, fiery, smoky, sensual. It's perfect. And then they also sent me 2 that I've never smelled before either. Guava Sorbet and Lucine by Lise. I think I'll review these in another video though, because I'm crushing so hard on this right now. Like, I'm so excited about this. So because everything in my life comes back to scent, I've been clinging to a few like gothic inspired fragrances that kind of feel like an abandoned church, or like rituals and bruised roses and incense and velvet and all of these fun descriptive words in descriptive language. But some of these I've already like talked about ad nauseum, so I don't want to like chop your ear off about this, but I know I've mentioned Relique d'Amour, and this just smells like a chapel abandoned to moss and silence, and it smells like prayer, and it smells like a ghost, and it's a very ghostly, haunting type of scent, and I love layering this with Molecule. It's perfect. It also makes it last longer. The other one that I feel is very, I don't know if it's so much like a femme fatale type of scent, but it is very gothic and dark academia adjacent, and this is Poe by Arquiste. It's a skin-like scent, warm, ghostly, soft. It's sensual. It feels lived in and mournful. Like, if you read the backstory of this scent, it's really beautiful, and it emulates just lost love and all of that stuff. It feels very mournful. The other one that I love, this was my signature scent for a while, especially during autumn winter, is Portrait of a Lady. This is the femme fatale of the bunch. It's overripe roses, clove, incense. It smells like lipstick on a glass of wine. It's beautiful. And this fragrance, like, honestly, when I wear this, I get chased down the street. And I always cringe when I hear people say that. Here I am saying it. But it very much, like, this is a compliment getter. And I love it because it smells so different on everyone. I love the way that this smells on my skin. It is such a sensual scent. And I always, like, tell people that this is really the first fragrance that kind of made me feel like a woman. Yeah, I started wearing this after college, like when I graduated from uni, and it was just like, oh wow, like this is like a big girl scent in a good way, like in a very, like, this makes you feel like very sexy. I don't know how else to describe it. Anyways, I already talked about Little Flower enough, but it just feels like haunted dried rose petals that you keep in a diary. This is so beautiful. I will never shut up about this. Speaking of Regime de Fleur, Falling Trees is soft decay, like wet bark, distant fire. It almost like feels reminiscent of a collapse of something that was big and grandiose, and all of these, like, I don't know how else to describe it, but it very much feels like you are in the woods in a forest. It's perfect. This is a very like fall winter scent, but it is very gothic, and it is very like woody. Oh God, I love this scent. Like, it also kind of reminds me, and maybe it's because the first time that I discovered this scent, I was at the Met. I wore it and then went to the Met, and it was like long strolls down like the European painting like galleries, and it was just like, oh wow, this is very much a vibe. It is so beautiful. I love this scent. This was my first Regime de Fleur fragrance. And then lastly is Le Lion by Chanel, and this is like resinous, smoky. It smells like an empress lion. I don't know, like Le Lion perfectly describes and encapsulates like what this scent is. It is a Leo fragrance. Like, you walk into the room with this scent on and it just demands attention, not in a bad way. And it's almost like it speaks for itself. It speaks for the woman wearing it, but in a way that, in a good way, if that makes sense. But it does feel very reminiscent of like a darker, twistier, like gothic adjacent type of fragrance. So it's so interesting how like so many different things can be categorized as gothic, but they all kind of like fall under their own category. Like, there's soft goth, there's like ghostly goth, there's like I don't know, like this is pretty girl goth, this is ghostly goth, this is femme fatale goth, and this is dark academia, this is like woody dark academia, museum dweller, and this is kind of like a mix of femme fatale and dark academia all at once. I really wanted to dedicate a segment of this video this week to talk about the Maker Hotel, and mostly because it's like a place that I have literally dreamt of staying for several years now. Like, when people would ask me like, what do you want to do for your birthday, like my answer has always been like, I want to stay at the Maker. It's a hotel in upstate New York, and what I love about it is that it doesn't just look beautiful, it just feels very lived in. And it reminds me that just home doesn't have to be perfect or minimal to feel sacred. It can be layered and textured and personal. It feels like, all of the lighting is soft light. There's worn wood. Their fragrances, which I'm sure that you've seen everywhere, they have candles, and the scent that they have just is clinging in the air, and it's spaces like that that make you want to stay longer. I feel like they slow you down, and I think that's why the maker has been on my wish list for years. Just sinking into that little universe of velvet chairs and antique mirrors and perfume that just really feels like a memory. Like I said, the hotel's in Hudson, New York, tucked into 3 historic buildings, and each room is different. It's designed with vintage and salvage pieces from all over the place. It's like a mix of vintage and Art Deco and classic. It just feels classic and timeless, and over 70% of the furniture, I believe, is antique, and every detail just feels intentional but never stiff. So the scent, like the maker has its own fragrance line, as I mentioned, and you've probably seen them in Sephora, but they're just very layered and sultry and genderless. And the hotel has a fragrance library and even a perfume cocktail menu in the lounge. So I feel like it's one of those places where you don't just stay there, you really take the place with you. And it's the kind of space that reminds you of how scent and design and ritual can turn any place, even a hotel room, into an absolute tranquil sanctuary that feels like home. I'm going to share some of my favorites from them, their fragrances. So Lover is a warm, spicy, like amber. It's like a skin scent almost, and there's a lot of tension in this scent that lingers, and it feels very addictive. This smells so good. There's a fig note in here that I really, really love. And then there's Dream, which is softer, more ethereal. It smells like cinnamon rolls, and it's beautiful. It reminds me of my childhood, and I want to wear this to bed. It's very comforting and nostalgic in that way. And then they have Naked, which is clean and intimate. It's like salted musk, sheer skin, something that is barely there but impossible to forget. And this is like something that you want to smell on your lover. It feels perfect, especially for spring, summer. Each one really feels like it carries a piece of the hotel's world with it. It's sensual and a little haunted and deeply personal. And so until I can spend a birthday wrapped in their velvet and wood, I kind of bring the maker home with me in small ways through scent and ritual, and through the quiet belief that home should always feel a little bit like a dream. If you have not looked at their website and just browsed around at the rooms that they have, I highly recommend doing it. They have a writer's room, which just feels like I'm gonna sound so annoying and cheesy and cringe right now, but it feels like it was made for me. And I know you knew that I was gonna say that, so I'm sorry, but it's just beautiful. And I've been told more often than not that if I were a place, if my aesthetic could be encapsulated into a place, it would be this hotel. So I just feel very connected to it. Anyways, I just wanted to carve out that time to just thank them for sending me these scents. I adore them, I love them, and just kind of shine light on places that really prioritize their guests, number one, but number two, just preserving the nature of their story and their mission and what it means to truly create a space that feels like home and a space that you never want to leave.